mysteries, transforming leaders into the best version of themselves so they achieve professional success, have more fun, and gain personal significance. People are referred to Charley when they hit an inflection point. They are stuck, not getting traction, or hitting a wall. They all share a common challenge. They are no longer moving forward, losing touch with what makes. Charley works one-on-one to uncover their authentic self, identify their superpowers, tap into their unrealized potential, and execute against a personalized playbook that positions them to show up in the world the way they want to. Today, Charley is here to offer us fresh thinking, new insights, and possibilities that we can put to use in our personal and professional lives. His is a different perspective, no nonsense, actionable advice to jumpstart our journey to that elusive best version of you. And I would personally attest to Charley is also one of the most giving people I know and has helped a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of you on this call as well. And I know, like me, you look forward to hearing what Charley has to say. So, Charley, it's all yours.
Ken, hello. Thank you, Ken. That was very kind of you. And I want to thank all of you for joining us for this particular call today. This is something that I've been dying to share with members of Beacon. We're all in this together. We're all members trying to help other members. And I hope that's it.
Charley, I'm sorry, really quick. Your slides are cut off a little bit on the bottom and the right. I don't know if it's just me.
On the screen here, it's okay.
Okay, might be just me then. Sorry about that.
No, they are cut off a little bit on the right.
Yeah, they're
So
cut off on my screen too.
I don't know what to do about that.
Why don't you try stopping the share and restarting it and see if that helps. There we go.
Is that working?
Yep.
Much better.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. As I said, I'm looking forward to sharing this information with all of us. The genesis of this talk really started back in 2008 or 2009. I had clients come to me complaining how hard it was for them to get introductions to people of influence, let alone to get it in front of decision makers. And that was different. Before 2008, 2009, it was quite easy to be able to get people to refer you in because it was a growth market, economy was booming, and now my clients were having a problem when I had to deduce that. So a lot of what you're going to hear today is the results of that research that's been going on for about 10 years. As the marketplace changes, you as the candidate need to adjust your message, your strategy to fit the changing market. If we sound old in a new market, the connection won't be there. Our candidacy will be stopped dead in its tracks. And remember, you don't come in second because of one thing. It's a variety of things. I call it a death by 1,000 cuts. And today, I'm going to share information with you. This is being recorded. This will be available for you to take a look at on the Beacon website, as well as other information that I'll be sending you afterwards that'll sort of help you better understand the perspective that I'm trying to bring to this topic. The agenda, these are the particular points I'd like to try to touch today. What are those top 10 reasons? Actually, there's 22 you'll see today. There's to take a deeper dive in 3 in particular. What's changing in the 2020 hiring process? And what's that 3-stage process for re-engineering your search for better outcomes? Search is confusing, it's complex, and we need to get a different perspective on it and understand an easier way to conduct it. And how can we transform today's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity into a competitive advantage for you? Companies, hiring managers are looking for people to help them turn this thing around moving forward, because coming out of this, it's going to be a little different. I believe in endless possibilities. So this little image you see down on the left-hand side of the screen is my image for endless possibilities. We have to keep trying to come up with new ideas that can be beneficial to our hiring authorities. So I'd like you to quickly jot down, what do you think the top 5 burning questions are that hiring managers need answered from you to progress toward an offer? What are those 5 things hiring managers need to get answers to? So take a few moments, if you would, and do that. Understanding the hiring manager is crucial to our success. What is it that they really want? Often the job description talks about what they want, but not what they need. All right, let's move on. Hiring managers want to know, can you do the job as specified? You have a job description. How do you match up technically with that job description? Can you do the job? Our past performance oftentimes dictates that. Are you passionate to perform this new role now? Are you passionate about this work? Do you want to continue doing this work that you've done before? Are you passionate to perform this role with their company? Sometimes we are passionate about the work, but we're not excited about the company. They can sense that. Can they work with you? What's the potential chemistry between you, their team, their clients, and their boss? Are you a good fit? Oftentimes we don't know that until we have multiple interviews within the organization. And finally, will you increase the probability of ensuring the boss exceeds performance, maintains job security, and advances his or her career? Will you fall on a grenade for that person? That's not something that happens in their brain, that's in their gut. They feel that about you. Decision makers hire candidates that they get clearly. If we are presenting ourselves in a fog, they're not going to see us clearly. They're going to be uncertain, and uncertainty doesn't breed a positive outcome for us. Somebody they feel good about, that doesn't happen in the brain, that happens in the gut. They know that you will do what you say you will do. They know it. They feel it in the brain and they feel it in the heart. And finally, do they feel you have a clear, relevant, diverse value proposition? The value you deliver is not one thing. It's a multiplicity of different things that you can bring to the table. Sometimes they're never on your resume, but they have to come out in the conversation. The most critical ingredient in your success in landing that next job is you. They're hiring you. They're not hiring your former employer. They're not hiring everything you've done in the past. They're hiring you in the here and now, and more importantly, in the future. So I'd like you to enter into the chat box. I'd like you to tell me, what do you think the reasons are why people come in second? Why are they overlooked? Why do they get to the 1 yard line and can't punch it into the end zone? Ken, you'll be watching the chat box?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. And as they come in, just out loud, would you say what some of those responses are?
Okay. We have lack of fit with the team or the company, non-specific skills, internal promotions versus outside. Again, not a fit, desired salary, not as dynamic as number 1, age, not clear about who they are. Not clear on a value prop, focus on technical skills instead of chemistry, less risky than to hire someone internally rather than externally. Lack of fit, not clear about the value they bring.
Thank you, Ken.
Sure.
Let's clear up one of the concerns that many of you have expressed to me over time, and that is age. And according to Korn Ferry, they have recently come out with a report on this topic, which I'm very happy to share with you. At the end of this presentation will be my contact information. Reach out to me, I'll be happy to share it with you. What are the benefits of younger employees? You can read that yourself. I don't have to read that to you. And what are the drawbacks that Korn Ferry feels younger employees bring to the table? As a candidate, we have to come up with an antidote for these. We have to show that we are capable of doing the same thing. Again, what are the benefits of older employees? We extol these virtues all the time. This is who we are. But what are the perceived, and I say perceived drawbacks of older employees? As we progress in our career, as we get closer to the 50 or 60-year mark, money is not as important to us as it was before. We're looking for meaning. We're looking for significance in the work we do and the contributions we make. How do we communicate that effectively? That is not in the job description. We have to make it part of the conversation. So this process of marketing you, because I believe you're engaged in a marketing activity, that you have to market the message. You have to get people's attention. You got to get them interested, and you got to motivate them to want to talk to you. Many, many ways of doing that. I put them in 3 domains. We have to get clear about ourselves. We have to align ourselves with the market, and then we go to market. We go out into the world and we start sharing our message with people of influence that can get us to those that may be able to hire us. This is the sweet spot. This is the right fit opportunity we all want. Nobody on this call wants to settle. Unfortunately, many do. I settled many times for reasons that are very obvious in this presentation to me. Reasons candidates come in second. We're going to go through this presentation and we're going to look at some of those reasons in each of the domains. What reasons involve clarity or alignment or execution? Then what we're going to do is we're going to take a deeper dive on 3 in particular. One from clarity, one from alignment, and one from execution. And we'll go into more depth in those shortly. So for clarity, what are some of those reasons? The biggest one is lack of self-awareness. Who are you really? I call it the authentic you, versus what is called the conforming you. To survive in corporations, in businesses, oftentimes we subordinate who we are to what they want us to be. There's an IBM kind of person. There's a Xerox kind of person. And when we join those organizations, we have to modify our behavior, our thinking, what we say, how we behave to fit in. And over time, we lose touch with who we are. So when people are asked the question, tell me about yourself, they're really not telling us about themselves. They're telling us about the person that we just were or currently are in our current position. Another reason is that we suffer from the imposter syndrome. Listen, I have been asked to leave corporations 5 times. It was painful. I felt I was kicked to the curb. I didn't think I deserved it. Many years later, I look back and say, I was a co-conspirator in my own demise. But what it did is it cost me a lot in terms of my belief in myself. Did they finally figure out I wasn't good enough, that I was a fake? I remember Sally Field when she accepted her Academy Award for Places in the Heart. She looked at the audience and cried and said, "You love me." She finally got validation that she was okay, that she was good enough to be on that particular stage. We need to get our mojo back. We need to be there again. This gets in the way. We don't think we're good enough. We'll read a job description and say, I'm not good enough for that. Or I don't have everything they want. It gets in the way of us being successful. A negativity bias. We look at things and we immediately start thinking the worst, not the best. Someone doesn't call us back, we immediately go to death. We feel that they're not interested in us. And oftentimes in conversations with people, if we doubt, we say things with the phrase, yes, but. Yes, but is not a movement forward, it's a movement backwards. Yes, and that is something that people are listening for on a subconscious level about us. The next is rearview mirror syndrome. Most candidates define themselves by the resume. The resume is behind them. It's the past. They have to focus on the future. How can you talk about the future? How can you project the future verbally and on paper or online so people get a sense of how you fit into their organization? That's a challenge. Authentic value proposition versus a formulaic elevator pitch. We know when someone is speaking authentically to us because it touches us here and it touches us here. When someone is reading from a script, they've memorized their elevator pitch, we don't connect with them here. And oftentimes we tune them out up here because it sounds like everyone else. The next one is about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. You can read in each of these images phrases, quotes that define those particular mindsets. Part of the reason people become unemployed is because they're operating in a growth company with a fixed mindset. Leadership realizes that they're not changing, they're not advancing, they're not involved in self-improvement. Therefore, when they have to have a cut list, they show up on the cut list. How do we demonstrate that we have a growth mindset? How do we let people know that we're interested in growing and expanding ourselves? If we don't do that, we walk around the company with a bullseye on our back, and it's a matter of time till we get that knock on the door that says, bring your playbook, coach wants to see. Let's shift to the next domain called alignment. And here are several reasons why along the way, people don't get selected to move forward in the process. They have a job-centered approach to job search. They're looking to get a job. They're not looking to get the next step in a career plan to move themselves forward to an end game. Where do they want to be at the end of their career? What are they working toward? And why are they working toward it? It's clear in the communication they're looking for a job. I've been in many meetings where candidates have shared their one-pagers and explained what they were looking for. And I said to them, why do you want to work at Aramark? And the reasons had nothing to do with the value they could add. Candidates, you need to understand that the buyer, the person who's going to hire you or refer you, they're listening to the subtext of what you're saying. The next is a misalignment of the true you with what the buyer's trying to do. We have a tendency when we're not working to read too much into a job description, project too much into it of ourselves. We may not be the appropriate fit. Third is misalignment of purpose and mission. We have a reason why we come to work every day. We have something we're trying to do in the world. We're trying to make a mark on the world. Oftentimes, we're not looking at what they're trying to accomplish, what they're doing as an organization. And when that is not properly aligned, nothing happens. But when a buyer understands that you have a shared vision of the world, that you're trying to advance science so that you can extend and save lives, and that's what they're trying to do, I think the uptake and the alignment between you and that organization increases. Next, match game versus a consultant's mindset. Oftentimes candidates take a look at a job description and they want A, I have A. They want B, I have B. I want you to think like a consultant. The job of a consultant is to uncover hidden or unarticulated issues or needs. challenges or opportunities in that client organization. Things that the buyer was unaware of, that if unattended could be costly. That's how consultants earn their money. We can't think of a match game. We have to think in terms of beyond the job description, what is it that they might need, they don't know it yet, that we can provide. Our job is to build a better vision of the future for them. The fifth one is taking versus giving. We know I stand for giving. The go-giver is part of my philosophy. What comes across in a lot of conversations, whether it's in networking or it's in an interview, is that the candidate is transaction-based as opposed to relationship-based. People are often taught in networking, make sure before you leave that networking meeting, you ask them, how can I help you? I'm going to suggest you flip that. The purpose of the meeting is how you can help them. If they feel that you care enough about them, they'll open up, you'll have a different type of interaction and better outcomes. Next phase or domain is called execution. So now we're hopefully prepared to go into the market. Oftentimes people enter the market not prepared to win. What I see a lot of is people trying to be Batman instead of being part of the Justice League. What do I mean by that? We need a tribe. We need people around us that can help us get through this. We don't have all the answers. It's lonely. We need to be part of a group. That's what Beacon is. All of you are finding people in Beacon that you can align with, you feel comfortable with, they're part of your tribe. Reactive versus proactive. I call it whack-a-mole. If you're on the boardwalk, there's that famous game, and what you try to do is hit the mole before it goes back into the hole. That's how people react. They have their alert set up for Indeed, for Google, etc. And the minute something pops up, they respond to it. And what ends up happening is the amount of rejection increases, which causes them, it reinforces the I'm not good enough mindset. Versus having a strategy that's proactive, targeting specific organizations and going after them. Now, I know I'm sharing a lot of what with you today, what you might do. Each of these areas is an hour discussion in and of itself. Just want to make you aware of the tops of the trees, the things that I've found that may shed some light on why you may not be getting the traction you deserve. Random marketing plan, chasing new bright shiny objects, demonstrating what I call a day trader behavior. So you'll go to a networking meeting, you'll talk to somebody, they'll suggest a different industry, a different company, etc. And immediately, without doing much homework, we shift our gears, we change our marketing materials, and we run in that particular direction. Infobesity, what does that mean? It's a tsunami of facts. Many people have told me that buyers have told me, hiring managers have told me that candidates tend to try to overwhelm them with information. That's not what they're after. They want to get to the essence of that particular person. If somebody wants to tell me they're brave, clean, and reverent, and 25 other things, I'll forget them. But if they tell me a story that inspires me, I'll remember all 25 things, because the story will have elements of those 25 things. That's the beauty of stories. They stick. People remember us. They affect us in the heart. They affect us in the head. Infobesity versus a consultative approach. Tell me about yourself. Many candidates 20 minutes later will shut up. Think like a consultant. Their job is to ask questions. How do I know I can help somebody? How will they know I can help them if I don't understand where they are, where they want to be, and what's getting in the way? You as a candidate's job is to try to unearth that. The job description often is what they want, not what they need. I see a lot of candidates waiting for permission. Charlie, the gentleman told me that he'd get back to me in 2 days. It's been a week. What should I do? What would a leader do? Not a follower. Think like a leader, because that's what they're hiring. People at our level are leaders, not followers. Demonstrate that behavior. It reinforces the perception you're trying to create in their mind. It's about me. A lot of people, when they interview, when they network, the person the listener has told me, Charley, it's all about them. I'm not hearing about their team. I'm not hearing about me. I'm not hearing about my organization. It's all about them. It's not the buyer's responsibility to read between the lines and figure you out. You have to be able to demonstrate to them how you're going to benefit their team, themselves, their organization. Again, in the execution stage, a lot of times in conversations, people will use this yet but idea. That does not move the conversation forward. Oftentimes, people are using language that differs from what the target company or their industry uses. They'll refer to customers when the hiring company talks about clients. Something that simple can signal that you're not right fit for them, that you don't understand their industry, even though you have protested time and time again that you do. Lack of one-on-one meetings with the right people of influence. There's a story of a Beacon member who was proud that he had 600 one-on-one networking meetings. 600. It's not quantity, it's quality. It's meeting with the right people. And oftentimes we shoot ourselves in the foot, so we don't get referred to those right people. Lack of authentic, genuine stories. Well thought out stories. It goes beyond situation, action, and result. It's something that has a feeling to it. It's something that connects to a bigger story about ourselves and how we operate, what our authentic self really is. So again, these are the 3 domains. And we're going to go through each one of them quickly. What do you do? Why do you do it? How do you do it? And what they will buy. Most candidates talk a lot about what they do. They talk about how they do it. Few talk about why they do it. The buyer is going to buy what they feel is best for them. We have to talk about those 3 areas: what you do, why you do it, and how you do it. If we do, we'll get that right fit opportunity. So the goals of networking and interviewing is to try to get people to know us, like us, and trust us. And if we're doing the types of things I've just mentioned, we'll never get to the like stage because we're not breaking through. There are things that we're doing. They're not causing people to embrace us. They're not going to refer us to the inner sanctum of their network if they don't trust us. They're not going to move us farther into the hiring process if they don't trust us. And what can we do to get them to trust us? We need to win hearts. And once we win their hearts, we can begin shaping how they think and feel about us. And finally, this will help us influence the outcomes that we want. So let's take a little deeper dive into these 3 areas. Clarity. So I'd like you, if you don't mind, to, into the chat window, write down the 3 words that you feel best describe you. These are the words that you believe. If an interview was only, give us 3 words about yourself, Joe, what would you say? Mary, what are 3 words that describe you? What words would you use? If you would, please write those in the chat box. And Ken, as they come in, will you please read them out?
Okay, we have smart, hardworking, adaptable, motivator, leader, organized, genuine, loyal, determined, curious, problem solver. They're moving fast and furious. Leadership, team builder, competitive, insightful, empathetic, authentic, enthusiastic, collaborative, strong business judgment, loyalty, adaptable, willing to learn new things, collaborative, in-depth, intelligent. One person wrote adoptable. I think that they could be taken in very easily. That would be good. I'm sure that meant adaptable. Leadership, team builder, competitive. I don't know if I said that already.
One more, please.
Communicator, chameleon, vision, authentic, curious.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay.
So if somebody said, Charlie, what are your 3 words? These are the 3 words that I would offer. Now, I am embarrassed to sort of say these words out loud because it may sound like I'm not humble. But as the asterisks indicate, these are not the words I choose to use. These are the words that others have used to describe me. My credibility goes up in a networking situation, in an interview, if I say, well, other people have used these words to describe me. It makes me more credible. It causes people to lean in and want to understand more about, well, what do you mean by that? Explain this authentic thing to me. So I don't disagree with how you're positioning yourselves. The question is, what would other people say about you? That's a very important component in getting clear about yourself. So we're all on a journey, and this is a diagram I've created of that journey. At the center of the journey, we need to get clear about what, how, why you do what you do, and what are some of the outcomes that prove it. Understanding yourself involves getting to know yourself in each of these areas. What are your passions? What are your beliefs? What are your strengths? What are your competencies? There's a difference between a competency and a strength. What's your value propositions? Just not one. What are multiple? And what are the professional experiences you have that reflect who you really are? So this takes time. This takes a deep dive to understand this about ourselves. And this is hard to do alone. This is something where one needs help and guidance through the process to be able to do it. Someone you trust, somebody you believe in, a coach, for example, is a way to get some feedback to help you get more clear. The hardest thing for most people is to tell their story. We need to pull that story out of ourselves so we can begin examining it and then phrasing it in a way that lands properly with hiring authorities. When we are clear about what we do, how we do it, and why we do it, it makes it easier for us to get that right fit opportunity, because at that intersection, that's where we are going to be perceived as a right fit candidate. So what does why sound like? So you're sitting down for a one-on-one meeting when we get back together, and you lean across the table and you ask Marshall Goldsmith, Marshall, what do you do? I change corporate culture. As an executive coach, I help successful leaders get even better by achieving positive, lasting change in behavior for themselves, their people, their teams, that drop significant money to the bottom line. This is right from the foreword to his book. This is how he positions himself in the marketplace. This is what's important to his customers that he does for them. Another, a Beacon member. I'm a CTO, a Chief Triage Officer. I work with operationally dysfunctional organizations to help them regain their market preeminence so they can justify value-based pricing, thereby generating bigger margins. These people know themselves. They've done work on themselves. They are very clear about the value that they can deliver. We all need to be this clear, this brief, and succinct, because that's what creates power in our communications. So what is this authentic you I talk about? Here's some phrases other people have used to describe it. An authentic brand, a personal brand, an authentic personal brand is not a fresh coat of paint on a rotting building. It's internal. It's who we are deep inside that the world sees. It's how we're showing up out there. And it's what future employers or companies can expect of you if they hire you. How do we discover it? You have a point of view. You have your perspective on you. There are tests out there that you can take, validated instruments that will give you some insight into yourself that on the surface you may not be able to see. And as I said before, Getting third-party perspectives creates a more 360 complete picture of who you are. And at that intersection, that is the authentic you. This is not an intellectual exercise. When you find the authentic you, you feel it. You say, that's it. That's me. That's what I've always been. That's what I want to continue to be. And again, we're back to the journey. The authentic you has to be, we have to get clarity, and then we have to align that authentic you with the marketplace. So we're going to shift to alignment now. These philosophers said something very interesting 30 years ago. We all want to work, but what do we need from the work that we get? Oftentimes, we don't get what we need. We get a job, we get a paycheck. We get put out of the misery of unemployment. But are we getting what we need to advance our career forward, to make the impact on the world we want to make? So here are two variations of an individual, a supply chain, a person in sales operations. I'm in transition, a sales operation leader with 20 plus years experience with several large medical device companies with a proven track record of progressive advancement in supply chain, warehousing, and distribution. I'm exploring opportunities here in the Delaware Valley that offer the potential for career advancement. I'm looking to connect with individuals in these companies who have openings for which I am a fit. Versus, I'm a sales operation leader seeking to make a bigger difference. I'm metric and performance driven, seeking to make an impact by contributing to the recruitment, development, and retention of global team of international medical device company, a company committed to saving and extending human lives. This is the same person. The second rendering was what was inside that person that needed to be teased out, because that's who they really are. That's what they're about. The first is the result of filling in the blanks on a template. The second is taking it from the inside out and making sure that we're communicating what's important to us. For him, it's making a difference. For whom are you most likely to advocate within your inner circle of influence? These are people that you developed a great relationship with. You don't let too many people in. Which of these two people would you let in? That's not a rhetorical question. So alignment looks something like this. I believe graphics sometimes simplify complex issues. Sometimes they make the simple complex. I hope this makes it a lot simpler for you. Down below are what we worked on to get to be the authentic you. Once we know that, then we're in a better position to, how are we going to position? What kind of position is right for us? The right kind of boss, the right kind of team, what niche in the organization or the marketplace, what organization. Then we get around to what our strategies and tactics are. You can't have a strategy unless you know the product you're trying to take into the marketplace. You have to know what its pluses and minuses are, what the competition is. All of these things help us get aligned so that when people are talking to us, we make sense to them. We are aligned with what they're looking for. So a lot of the misalignment has to do with ourselves not matching up with who they are. We've gone through these before. What are the consequences of an inauthentic person in the transition process? Let's take that first part of the journey, which is once we know who we are, we want to get access to people. When we're inauthentic, we sound like blah, blah, blah versus wow. The eyebrows go up with wow. You're interesting. Tell me more. People can't wait to get away from you if you sound blah, blah, blah. If you sound like everybody else, what's your difference? When you're authentic, you're able to show your difference. Missed opportunities to targeted people of influence to know, like, trust, and refer you. We miss out on these things because people are uncertain about us. They're not comfortable. Oftentimes we're dead at a low. Earlier you said, hi, I'm in transition. I can't tell you how that turns people off. Now, those of us that are in transition, it doesn't mean anything to us because we all say it. But when we're talking to somebody that's never been kicked to the curb and we say, hi, I'm in transition. I'm going to suggest to you that's not the best way to start a date. It doesn't have executive presence to earn the right to advance. Senior executives who are working don't say, hey, I'm in transition. We're all in transition. We want to get promoted. We want to get a different job. We want to pick up a different product line. We're all in transition, and how we handle ourselves and how we communicate will determine how willing people are to help us. It also increases the risk, distrust, and hesitation on the part of the buyer. You're trying to minimize risk. You're trying to get more trust. You're trying to motivate them to help you. And this will lead to rejection, lower confidence in ourselves, and we end up settling. That wasn't how we started this process to settle. This is a chart that I'd like you to take some time and look at when you look at the slide deck again. It's from Bates Communication. It talks about what are the elements of executive presence. Character is 51% of the equation. Substance, your gravitas, your knowledge, that's 35%. And your style, your appearance, how you show up, is 14%. We're in a period where it's hard for people to see us. Our ability to create an appearance is much less. Gravitas is very important. Are we a subject matter expert? Do we have vision? These things can be communicated online. These can be communicated on paper. And character, we've been talking about the authentic you. One of the highest rated elements of executive presence is your authenticity, your integrity, and your humility. How does that get across on a resume, on an interview, online? These are things we can work on because we need to elevate the executive presence, because you're all leaders, you all are executives, or you would not be in Beacon. So here's an example of someone online trying to convey their executive presence. Take a moment, if you would, and read that. This exists today online. Here is the same person after discovering their authentic self. Here's the second page. Which person would you feel comfortable referring? People make quick assessments and judgments of us. When they land on our LinkedIn page, they make a decision fairly quickly, whether you're the real deal or not, whether you're worth investing in or not. When you meet them for a cup of coffee, the same thing happens. We have to get more clear about ourselves and where we fit in and the value we can deliver. So again, when we combine these three together, we have a better chance of projecting what I call is the authentic self. Once we have the authentic person, us, then the rest of these items are easy to come and figure out. To figure out what kind of boss would resonate with the best. What kind of situation should the company be in? Are they growing? Are they turning around? What's right for us? What's the right fit? And then what industry should we be in? There are more industries out there for you to be in than you've ever been in. And they're evolving and changing every day. In the interviewing process, if we're not authentic, what could happen? There's a lack of trust that causes the buyer to close down rather than opening up, sharing their challenges, sharing their concerns, and sharing what they are looking for in the future. You may be a vehicle to get them there, but they're not going to tell you because they're not dealing with somebody that they feel comfortable with. Authentic you is a feeling that people end up having about you. The candidate ends up underachieving by not projecting their unique promise of sustainable value at each level of the interview process. They miss an opportunity to showcase their innovative side and their contribution beyond the job specs. I suggest to you that when people are hired, they're hired for more than just a fit with the job description. They bring other things to the table that are of value to the company. And when you aren't authentic, you'll never get to the red zone. You'll be a bridesmaid. And listen, go back to age for a minute. We are never excluded when we're on the 1 yard line because of age. We never get to the 1 yard line if they have a bias against age. That's not the reason we don't get the job. It's something else happened. We need to decode it, hack it, and figure out what it is and fix it so it doesn't happen again. When we get an offer and we have to counteroffer, if we are not authentic, if we are not ourselves, if we are trying to be something we're not, if we're trying to fit into what they think we should be, we're going to lower our own preeminence. We're going to get a lower offer. They're going to win, we're going to lose. We're not going to get what we deserve. We'll underachieve financially. They won't see why they should give you more than what they've offered you. Their initial offer usually reflects the perception of what value you present, usually at the lower end of the scale, but it is a perception. It resets the baseline lower for our future. If we drop $30,000 and then we want to look for another position in 18 to 24 months, we're starting out at a lower number than we should. And it lays the groundwork for disrespect. If we don't get what we deserve and they know we deserve more, how are they perceiving you working in that organization moving forward? Once you're in the job, if you're not authentic, if you're not transparent, if you're not more open, they don't get a real sense of what your value creation could be. It ends up affecting your communication with teams. It makes it hard for you to stand out. You tend to blend in, you tend to want to fit in as opposed to standing out and demonstrating the added value you can bring. And it takes longer for the internal business partners to know, like, and trust you in the organization. Many of us were let go from positions because people senior us did not understand who we really were and the real value we can deliver. They depended on those above us, immediately above us, to tell them that. And finally, there's a lack of visibility that leads to missed opportunities, both internally and externally. You're not known in the outside world for the great work you're doing. Therefore, recruiters are less likely to call you because you're not an A player in the eyes of the outside world. So the imperative is that clarity and alignment must be in place for it to stand out. Take a moment and just read that list if you would. People are buying you, so they need to know you. People insist on doing business with people they trust, so they need to know you, to like you, before they can trust you enough to buy from you. The market is awash with competitors, all claiming to be as good as you are. So how are you going to set yourself apart? Authentically. When the buyer is confused, it will kill offers and referrals. We must stand out from our competition. We must be ahead above. We must be heard above the noise. A well-articulated brand instills confidence, credibility, and trust between the seller, that's you, and the buyer, a hiring manager. We'll go back to an earlier slide. Decision makers hire candidates that they get clearly, that they feel good about, and they know that they will do what they say they will do. Even though it may not be on the job description, they're comfortable they'll be able to do it. And they feel that you have a clear and relevant, diverse value proposition. I compare it oftentimes to a Swiss Army knife. You buy a knife to cut something. You buy a Swiss Army knife for all the utility that comes with that knife. It's a great value for the amount of money spent. People have to know you, like you, and trust you. I've said it over and over again today. And those of you that know me, have worked with me, know that unless people trust you, we're not going to get the things we truly deserve. So again, it's about winning hearts, shaping minds, and then influencing outcomes. So, I'd like to wrap up. Ken, if you would, are there any questions in the chat box that people have raised that we want to address?
Yes. How about somebody asked, how do you specifically move the conversation from being job centered to that bigger picture conversation you talked about, from the match game to the consultant's mindset? How do you get people? How do you take the conversation that way?
Without knowing the specific of that situation, Ken, I would say you have to be prepared to ask questions. You have to be inquisitive and curious. Listen, once you land and you show up day one, you're going to have lots of questions. You should ask questions during that interview or the networking. You need to understand where they're at, where they want to be, in order for you to understand how I can help them. That will shift the conversation from the job description to other areas that they want to see accomplished by bringing in somebody that has the talents that you may have. So without knowing the specific indication of the situation, that would be my answer.
Okay. Here's another one. How does brand evolve and develop over time?
What I found is brand starts when we're very young, and it shows up differently as we go through our life. It's what makes you different. It's as if I said, hey, tell me about Ken. And they'll start to use words about you, of how they've perceived you. Ken, that's your brand. Whether you like it or not, that's your brand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to, you need to align that with what you think, because maybe what you think is limited compared to how much more people feel about you. I was shocked at some of the very positive things people said about me that I would be embarrassed to say out loud. But this is the experience they had with me, the Charley experience, the Ken experience. That's the brand. And it starts very early in our lives. And if we go back and we look at all the different jobs we had, there's a through line, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
It shows up. Some jobs let you be you. Other jobs, they're not going to let you be you. They're usually the jobs that we don't have much success with.
Okay. And how do you get to that with your clients, Charley? Do you have tools or documents, or how do you help them convey their uniqueness?
The answer lies within them, and different assessments, different questions, different written exercises we go through. We tease out what's inside them. That's really who they really are, and does distinguish them from other people. They know it's in there. It does come out, and eventually their eyebrows will be raised, and they'll, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Always get in there.
Okay. Very good. That seems to be it on the questions for now, Charley.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody else in the audience before we leave?
I think that's it.
Zoe, any final comments?
I want to say thanks again, Charley. I hope this was really helpful for everyone. And we did record this, and we'll make sure that everyone gets info from the slides and the recording as soon as it's available. So thanks again, Charley.
Listen, thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ford, for allowing me to present this information today. Listen, you all have value. You all have something to offer. We need to be heard above the noise. We need to stand out. We need to get in front of the right people. And the people in Beacon can help you get there. We need to motivate them to want to help you. So I thank you. Here's my contact information. If any of you want to reach out and talk to me, very, very happy to do that so that you could get a better picture on that potential you have that's already inside you that needs to come out to make a difference in your life and the life of others. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Great job, and definitely you lived up to the big billing. It was a tall order, but you nailed it. Thank you, and hopefully we'll see a lot of you, if not all of you, on the 28th for our next program about networking. So thanks, everyone. Check the Beacon events page to find out about
Thank you.
it. See you.
Thank you, Charlie.